what are the emotional needs that we are talking about? Is it the need for safety, physical safety, emotional safety, interaction, socialization? What should be our topmost concern right now as a teacher?
So as a teacher, my topmost concern now is physical and emotional safety. You can't have emotional safety unless you have physical safety first. So you can't, there's a saying that you can't feel calm if you're being chased by a tiger. So let's all understand that physical safety of a child has to come before them feeling emotionally safe. And emotional safety is more important, the most important now. And, so I kind of say that people who are concerned about academic outcomes and things like that should really give that a backseat. Because if you're not feeling physically and emotionally safe, you can't learn and grow anyway. Yeah. So for me, you summed it up really beautifully. Yes, physical safety comes first, because without that, you can't have emotional safety. Emotional safety comes second, and then comes anything else, that we tend to focus on, like academic outcomes and things like that.
Vasant, do you want to add anything to this?
Every school, college, university in India must have at least one trained and certified counselor, and that the curriculum of each school must have at least one course in their curriculum on emotional intelligence.
What if these needs are not met?
There's one metaphor that comes to mind. It's if we don't actually really take care of this emotional support, it would look like a tsunami, and the school environment would enable, I would say, to allow children to cope with life stress, to learn new skills, to think clearly, to develop socially. We know today that bringing emotional support is at the core of learning. We know that. And it's not only as a message, but as a tool to learning. And emotion and learning are inseparable. Emotion is the propeller for thought and the key to memory. So to answer you, Atul, I think that we would be, I would say, facing something really grey and not very positive.
Atul, can I add something?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to add a little bit of spin. That what if we were to look at this with a spirit of optimism? What if we were to shift some of our beliefs and languages around this, right? One is, we know that during this time, parents are finally seeing that what kids were doing in the classroom was not fabulous. Suddenly, parents are saying, hey, there is a need for change. I'm not going to depend just on the brand and the fee structure of the school to believe in it. The second thing is, we know there's a lot of inequity across the world as far as education is concerned. What if we were to look at this time? Yes, there'll be an upheaval because any change creates its own sort of disruption. But what if we were to look at this time to say that, finally, we're going to all use technology and the tools of technology to turn education on its head, right? This is a time when we can teach them very powerful lessons, right? We can teach them kindness, we can teach them empathy, we can teach them communication, we can teach them resilience, and we can actually teach them about contribution inside and outside the home, because, kids will see it how we see it. If we use some of the words you used in the beginning, like pain, suffering, so our diet is not just what we physically eat, it's right what we emotionally consume from media, from the language we hear around us. So what if we were to flip some of this and say, hey, to our kids, this is a time when, you can believe the world's really scary because that's what everything is feeding to you. And we can even teach media literacy at this moment to teach kids about how their brains are wired and how the media knows their brains are wired. And
right.
Constantly, it's brainwashing kids, and we can shift that.
So these are some of the interventions that we can do using the new normal. How does a teacher today, how does an educator today identify students who are in need of support to manage their emotions?
Teachers, educators could actually bring and create positive interactions at all to be able to enable this, I would say, awareness and understanding of when the child needs support or not, and little by little bring autonomy into the online classroom or physical classroom. And that's how I would say the teacher would actually know through dialogues and bring, I would say, empowerment and collaboration to be able to nurture those children and bring them to face reality.
Whenever we talk about interaction between student and teacher, we are always focused on the academic part. That informal interaction, what Sophie's talking about, let's just do a dialogue. Let's just talk today. We're not going to be doing any learning. And I just want to know what's up. Now, are those missing from our ecosystem right now? Would you like to see more of them happen? Go ahead.
So one is to obviously build self-awareness. How are you feeling? Let's put labels to those things, to those feelings, etc., because we've not learned to do that, right? The second is you can even do it while you're teaching. If you're a maths teacher, this is a brilliant time to teach the maths of COVID, right? And actually connect it to kids where they see a meaning for the maths in their real life. Now, I'll just take two age groups with practical things you can do that are academically related, right? So you've got, you're teaching stories to preschoolers. You read the book, Ruby Has a Worry, right? So she has a worry. Her worry goes from this size to this size. Her worry has colors that are associated with it. And now if you're teaching a preschool class, you read the story. You get the kids to do art around, putting visual images to their worry, colors to their worry, sizes to their worry. Now, if you've got older kids, like teenagers, there's a beautiful TED talk by Amy Purdy called Living Beyond Limits. Where the thing she says is everything depends on the story you tell yourself. Like you're the author of your story, what do you want to... So I'm saying it doesn't only have to be me asking you, how are you feeling? And can I massage your feelings? It can also be through the design of what you do at the back end, where you're actually practically reading the story, but getting kids to understand conceptually that, they've got control and power in their hands about how they feel.
What we are seeing today is that every subject teacher's role, there is going to be an element of counseling in that role. So how does a teacher learn counseling very quickly?
We do not have even 1% of our teachers or student formal trained on emotional intelligence. There should be an overall basic understanding of the subject matter. At least you should be well versed enough to see the signs, like you were pointing out, where the teacher, counselor can see that this child needs help.
Right. So Leena, go ahead.
What about the emotional well-being of the teachers?
Mm-hmm.
So unless a teacher has emotional well-being, there's no way she can take care of the emotional well-being of students. So we're constantly talking about students, but we miss the essential piece in this, which is the teacher. Today, what's happening is teachers are not even sure of their jobs. So they don't have physical safety, they don't have emotional safety, and yet we're expecting them to be able to, through the screen, give students a feeling of emotional safety. How is that possible?
Right.
We have to have teachers feeling emotionally safe.
And I really agree with Leena. I mean, there's one thing I wanted to share. Human beings are inherent social creatures, and we're wired to actually be with others. So when we're going through stress in our learning journeys as an educator, there's a sense of human connection that is one of our fundamentals. So what about collective efficacy and working together? Being together and finding a way to lower our own anxiety, because we know that social connection help us regulate our emotions, and we're feeling socially disconnected with what's happening. But if we could find a way to be less isolated as an educator, I think this is more important than ever, to work together in a collective efficacy sense.
For school leaders who are listening and who are tuned in, and for school owners who are tuned in, I think a school-wide exercise to find out how your teachers are coping up emotionally with the current situation and how they are gearing up to reopen schools. I think that is a very good exercise. You are not a psychiatrist. You're not a psychologist, okay? You don't have to single out pieces and treat them as individuals. As an educator, you have to look at the whole group scenario. Your entire group of 40 people, they should have an average emotional well-being, which is towards the happiness side. And for that, one of the tools that can work is collaboration. The more collaboration you build into your teaching learning process, that will encourage definitely a better well-being, emotional well-being. What is the role of the parent in ensuring the emotional needs of the students are being met?
The first opportunity parents have is to actually equate potential with abilities and interest of a child. And this is one time that you can actually immerse yourself in doing that. We also have the great opportunity to remind ourselves that whatever we identify with is what the kids will identify with. Yeah. And the third is we've got a great opportunity to actually spend time with our kids, because if you're working for an organization, you're working online, you're saving in travel time, etc., etc. This is your time to do that. And I think more than anything else, parents, if you give your kids unconditional love, and your kids don't feel that that your love is contingent on them doing well academically, or producing something academically.
How do parents not translate their negative emotions to students?
So it's basically what we said about teachers, right? That the teachers need to be emotionally nurtured. The parents need to be emotionally nurtured. Parents also carry a lot of, as a society, we've thrust this on parents that, your badge of honor comes from whether your child gets an A+ in his exams. So it's about time, I think, we start giving parents the hard facts of what is life success about. We're all focused on happiness, but happiness, we forget, actually comes from having meaning and purpose. So if we can find kids to have meaning and purpose and not give them all the same stuff to study in the same ways of testing them, and we can allow them to be in a state of flow, having fun because they're interested in what they're doing.
What kind of emotional problems are you seeing in students, and how are parents and teachers dealing with it?
Parents here are trying to find what is wrong with the kids instead of finding their strength. And if we could start with what the child's strength is, I think we could all learn and engage positively and trust learners' capacities. If the child seems to be slow, well, that's okay. That's how he or she wants to learn. And for me, I think the second thing is we've got to learn in Europe to be more observant, listening. We should go into listening. We should go into thinking critically through questioning, through curiosity. And we do not support, that's my third thing, we do not support each other as much as we should between peers, between children, peer children, and between parents, and between, I would say, educators. This whole, what I call learning at large, should be in Europe.
So understanding what trauma, what problems, what emotional stress is the family of the child going through is also one of the steps in helping to support your students for a better, emotional well-being. Yes, Leena, go ahead.
So one of the things is, parents don't have the language, they don't have the tools necessarily. And we need to help give them the language and the tools, right? So parents are very used to asking their kids doing questions. Did you do your homework? Did you, do this? Did you finish this? Instead of kind of being questions, what are you most thankful today for today? What, even through this time, what was in your control today? What was outside of your control today? So getting kids to understand those kinds of things. What did you improve today physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually? And we need to give these tools and language to teachers and parents so that they can to be able to kind of have these conversations.
How do we restore that sense of safety, love, and belongingness, not just in the children, but also the teachers and the parents?
I think we've set it in our mind that the only way to interact emotionally is if we're physically present with each other. So I think we've got to shift that language in our heads. I think we've got to stop thinking that and we've got to think of all that we've got that's abundant that we can use to work for us. And when we keep saying technology is evil, FaceTime is evil, this is evil, that's what we're feeding our kids.
We are talking about emotional needs of digital natives, okay? Please, for them, if they get a smiley that they are connecting with, a smiley on a WhatsApp is making them connect to you. They like you when you send them hearts, okay? So even emoticons are a very powerful, maybe that's why they're called emoticons, because they're a very powerful tools. Don't think that you have to be sitting next to them to fulfill their emotional needs. You can do it online also as easily.
What is a quick way for an educator to understand or check in on their students' emotional well-being?
There are so many ways to be connecting over content. Connecting over content could be through drama. And my way of showing kids that I'm not feeling good is like that. I put my glasses to the side and they start laughing. Having this connection over content, this way of asking questions, being curious. Look, so what is it that you want to ask me today? It could be, what's your favorite color? I don't know, even little stuff.
This is the last question.
Okay. Is professional counseling a must for students who are emotionally disturbed?
So I think one of the things that would be great is to teach normal teachers to understand these cues. Counseling is an essential component of the course when you're a teacher in Australia. So I think every school can offer some guidance to teachers to, counseling is not rocket science as a process. And then just in the cases of when a student is outside the confines of what you can handle, you can refer the kids to a specialist.
Time for me to wrap up the show. So thank you so much, guys, for being here.